Yo, 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 what's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads out there? This is WeedMan420 with the WeedMan420 Chronicles. How are you vipers doing out there this evening? Mrs. Weedman, how you doing?
Hello, everybody. I don't know why I just had the urge to try to do an Elmo voice. We watched the 50th anniversary of Sesame Street this week. It was pretty special.
It was pretty special.
So
Great.
Why that just came to mind, I don't know. But
do you remember watching
everybody.
it when we were kids? Like,
Heck yeah.
Like 1973, 74, 75,
I am
76.
a Sesame Street kid.
Oh, yeah, me too, all day
yeah.
long. Yeah, that was a great show. It was it still is a great show. Just an amazing show to how they just made unity in a show. You know, they tackled racial issues. They tackled
diversity, inclusion.
Yeah, it was so amazing.
Accepting people for who they are.
Yep. I still think Bert and Ernie are gay, but no one's ever said it. But they could be.
That's okay.
I'm not denying it. I just wish they would come out and just let people know that they are.
Yeah.
I really do.
Ernie and Bert. Rubber
ducky, you're the one. Make a bad time lots of fun.
Bath time, not
That's
bedtime.
What I said. I said bad time.
Bedtime. Now you're really making people wonder.
Yeah, right. Hey, all. Hope everyone's doing well out there. There's just a world full of love, a world full of unity for everybody out there, and hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks. I love you all, and we're gonna smoke right now. And Mrs. Weedman's gonna blow up this bowl with some Jack Herrera that a friend of mine gave me. The Jack Herrera, super stoked. Just so you know, it's a sativa dominant cannabis strain that has been gained so much namesake and so much popularity over the years. We've talked about Jack Herrera on the show. Of course, it's named after him. It's combining Haze Hybrid with Northern Lights No. 5, a Shiva Skunk Cross. Sensi Seeds created Jack Herrera, hoping to capture both cerebral elevation and heavy resin production. Its rich genetic background gives rise to several different variations of Jack Herrera, each phenotype bearing its own unique features and effects. However, consumers typically describe this 55% sativa hybrid as blissful, clear-headed, and creative. Jack Herrera was created in the Netherlands in the mid-1990s, where it was later distributed by Dutch pharmacies as a recognized medical-grade strain. Since then, the spicy pine-scented strain has taken home numerous awards for its quality and potency. Many breeders have attempted to cultivate this staple strain themselves in sunny or Mediterranean climates, and indoor growers should wait about 50 to 70 days for Jack Herrera to flower. The main terpene is terpene, and usually runs between 17 and 25%. I've heard even higher, but that's like the average. Makes you happy, uplifted, euphoric, energetic, creative. Some of the negatives, though, are dry mouth, dry eyes, paranoia, a little dizzy, anxious. Dry mouth being the most, but that's most cannabis strains. Just drink a lot of water, like I always do when I smoke. I mean, it makes me drink water. That's why I love it. So, I guess in some of the Jack Herrera growers have found a little bit of CBG in there, roughly around 1%. Not CBD, CBG, which is another cannabinoid. So, yeah, we're going to smoke and see how we feel. Mrs. Weedman, go ahead and talk a little bit while I burn this bowl up, yo.
Well, it was tasty for sure.
Tasty?
Yeah. And
a friend of mine, a very, very good friend of mine, gave me this.
Yeah, it was pretty tasty. So we've had a pretty decent week here. We've got some spring storms coming through the area.
It was beautiful out today.
The weather's trying to warm up and be normal. And I've realized that because of COVID and everything in life just not being ordinary in terms of like your day-to-day, you know, we are home so much more. We don't really celebrate on our weekends. We're just kind of home, right? And for whatever reason, that's caused me to kind of like... I'm having a really hard time figuring out when I should do my yard work. I keep thinking we should have had our yard work done already. Like, what's going on? We're so far behind. And I'm like, no, we don't usually do that until like Mother's Day.
Right.
And sometimes even at Mother's Day, we have a frost. So you can't, even planting flowers at Mother's Day is risky. And that's next weekend. But for some reason, I feel so behind.
I was looking at the yard this weekend
when
you were out of town. And I was looking at the yard going, yeah, there's some weeds I need to pull. It was warm. It was very nice this weekend. No, it was warm. It was 81 degrees. It was nice. But I went and played disc golf instead. Well,
see?
But I did look out there, and it did cross my mind to pull some weeds. And I was like, Nah, disc golf's more important.
Well, then, yes, I was out of town for the weekend. I was in St. Louis for the first time visiting my sister, my niece and nephew. And they had a natural lawn, or like some of the lawns around their neighborhood had natural lawns. And then I was like, well, wouldn't that be special?
What's a natural lawn?
It's just you don't put any bug or insecticide or
I want to
fertilizer
grow all
down.
clove.
So they had all clover.
Yeah.
And they were, rather than being like tiny little clovers, they were big, and it made like a blanket. No, I did
Brings
not.
lots of bunnies, and you love
It
bunnies.
was pretty. And then there were like little violets popping up through the clover. I was like, I'm all for that.
Paulie, our son, has told us to do a clover yard. I would not mind, because I don't even mind dandelions. I know people don't like them; they consider them a weed. But dandelions, I think they're pretty. They're flower. Pretty. Yeah, I think doing a natural garden of clover and dandelions, and I don't think it's a bad thing. It brings lots of bunnies, and you like bunnies.
Well, and O-Dog, our daughter, our little, what do we call her?
Little weed girl.
Little weed girl. She suggested that we do a wildlife backyard. So apparently you can now get your yard, whether it's your front yard, backyard, whatever land you have, you can get it recognized as a wildlife preserve. And by doing so, you have to grow things that would be beneficial to bring wildlife. And I don't want like possums and raccoons, because
possums are good for the environment.
They keep the bugs away.
They eat 5,000 ticks a year.
But I don't want one hanging out in my backyard.
Why?
That's gross.
As long as you don't mess with
them.
them.
But I'm good with like cute squirrels. I'm good with bunnies. That's good.
Well,
we could stop at that.
They keep the what was the possums? They keep to themselves though, as long as you don't mess with them. But they only come out at night. They're very rare out during the day. But they are good for the environment, so don't leave possums alone. They eat pests. They eat ticks. And you need them for the environment. So
you could create a wildlife preserve. You can get a little placard if you certify your yard by doing these certain steps. So you have to provide a little shelter
Grass
area.
takes a lot of work.
I know.
And I'm not talking about the kind we're smoking grass. That takes a lot of work,
imagine
too.
If you had a yard full of weed?
Forget about it.
Someday.
If ones can dream. But no, grass is tough. It's a pain in the ass to grow. I rather grow a natural garden with just let the yard...
Just let it be.
Do what it wants to do, as long as it's not like bad weeds that are poisonous or something like that. But good, like I would love to do a clover yard. I think laying on that in a summer breeze would be amazing. What a big joint, fed
because
joint.
you always lay on the grass.
I would on that.
You would.
I would.
I'm going to hold you to it.
Okay, then grow me some clover.
I'm going to tell you to go next. Then when it's a breezy day, I'm going to tell you go lay in the breezy grass.
A fat doink. With a cup of coffee on a Saturday at like 9 a.m. when the sun's hitting down.
Maybe the opossum will come out and hang out with you.
If wants to smoke a J with me, that's all I'm
going to do. And the
neighborhood
raccoon and whatever wildlife we have at that point.
Oh, shit. Hey, let's do a toast. A little rosé.
Cheers.
All evening, all day.
All day. Mm-hmm.
Tasty as always.
How did that even happen that we just drink rosé now?
It's just a thing. But we were drinking High Life here. We drink a little red wine every once in a while. We just like our rosé. It's crisp. It's easy to drink. Yeah, but bourbon during the show. I mean, you could drink bourbon during the show.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody would care.
That tastes great.
I think in the wintertime you can move to bourbon, or the summer, or the spring, whenever you want.
Bourbon.
You're a grown-ass woman. Do what you want, girl.
Fuck yeah. Right? Oh, shit. All right, let's get serious
here, ladies and gentlemen, burners, stoners, and potheads. Normal sends a letter to President Biden. And they urged you to clearly demonstrate his commitment to the criminal justice reform by immediately issuing a general pardon for all former federal nonviolent cannabis offenders. The letter it says, "Dear Mr. President, thank you for taking a strong leadership position in support of criminal justice reform in the United States. The protests and the civil unrest that dominated the news following the murder of George Floyd revealed historic levels of mistrust and eagerness for bold new leadership. Our system is in the urgent need of reform, and we appreciate the goals outlined by your administration. President Biden, we urge you to clearly demonstrate your commitment to criminal justice reform by immediately issuing a general pardon to former federal nonviolent cannabis offenders in the U.S. In addition to all those who are federally incarcerated on nonviolent cannabis-only offenses for activity now legal under the laws should be pardoned and their related sentences commuted. Cannabis prohibition ruins lives, wastes resources, and is opposed by a large majority of Americans. 2 out of every 3 states in the U.S. have abandoned the federal government's blanket prohibition and now provide safe and regulated access to cannabis for adults and those with qualifying medical conditions. And Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has showcased the important role of clemency in achieving justice and equity with cannabis reforms through his recent work pardoning or expunging nearly 500,000 prior cannabis convictions. Criminal histories related to cannabis can be particularly harmful for individuals, despite the change in the laws in many states. Convictions can seriously limit job opportunities, housing, and educational options. Long after the person has gone through legal system, the baggage of war on cannabis, they put marijuana, on cannabis continues to undermine the person's life and diminish their prospects. It is past time for the harm to stop. I think that's a great letter. I mean, I think it's powerful, and there's a little more to it. In November of 2019, during a Democratic primary debate, you stated, "I think we should decriminalize cannabis, period. And I think everyone and anyone who has a record should be let out of jail. Their records expunged, be completely zeroed out. You are now in the position to do just that through categorical pardon grant. Such grants are hardly unprecedented. Do just through presidents from political, a lot of P's in there, sorry everyone, from both political parties have taken such action when circumstances warranted it. In 1974, President Ford signed a proclamation granting conditional pardons to the Selective Service Act violators who did not leave the United States. In 1977, President Carter issued a categorical pardons to all Selective Service Act violators as a way to put the war and division it caused in the past. That's when we had, during the Vietnam War, people were against the war, so people burned their draft cards. A lot of them went to Canada, so they were pardoned by President Carter and President Ford. President Ford did the United States, and then Carter let people that left and went to Mexico or the United States back in and took all what they did away, which was great. While the war on cannabis impacts individuals of all races, a disproportionate number who enter the criminal justice system are people of color. On your first day in office, you signed an executive order rightly stating that our nation deserves an ambiguous whole of government. Equity agenda matches the scale of the opportunities and challenges what we face. Today, the long-term harm of cannabis prohibition communities of color throughout the country is profounded. As we look to the solutions to providing healing, the dangerous policing tactics that were developed to execute the war on cannabis, including no-knock warrants and other aggressive tactics, shocked the nation and have led us to historic levels of mistrust. When a large majority of Americans no longer believe cannabis should be illegal, aggressive enforcement tactics quickly would lose support. A general pardon of all former and current federal nonviolent cannabis offenders would be the kind of grand, ambitious, and impactful action that would signal to marginalized communities that our suffering is seen and the government seeks to remedy their harms. Pretty powerful. We appreciate that the Biden-Sanders task force recommendations speak to these issues, and we recognize the expungement and the important part of the healing process. We ask you to clearly send through a general clemency a powerful message that our country is truly taking a new course on criminal justice policies and practice. Thank you for your leadership position as our nation begins to address criminal and social justice reform. And it was signed by Stephen W. Hawkins, Weldon Angelos, Eric Alteri, and Amber Littlejohn. Amazing. Because they're holding him accountable like we've talked about on prior shows. They're holding our government accountable of what they said on stage, on the debates, during the debates, on their presidential campaigns. These letters and what they're writing and what they're putting on their websites and getting people to read, and like myself who read this letter and thought it was impactful, that everyone who listens to us should hear this and spread the word. It's time to hold our politicians accountable, especially for what they say. And if they say something, they need to act on it and do it, because what I've said is your word is your bond. It's all you got.
And here's the other thing, too. Like, okay, sometimes they have pipe dreams, right? And then they get into office, and it's just the reality is they can't accomplish one of the things or two of the things that they made big on their agenda. Well, then just have some transparency in that, too. And be like, hey, yeah, I was a big proponent of this, and I did say I was going to get this passed, and I was going to rework this system, but it's just not going to work out. like now that I'm seeing the inside of how this whole thing is working, we're recognizing that we can't do away with this program or that. We can't modify it this way or that way, but to just give some sort of feedback, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just not doing things.
They said it.
Just telling us what we need to hear so we vote for them.
Exactly. So, but I'm glad they're holding him accountable. I'm glad they're not letting this issue go. And there's 40,000 people in jail right now for nonviolent cannabis acts. There's over 700,000 people still that have cannabis convictions on their record.
Jeez.
I will say this. Pritzker did say what he was going to do. He said he was going to expunge all cannabis records. He's up to 500,000 people. That's pretty big. So governors of other states need to take action on this also. So on the federal level, it has to come, from Biden and stuff like that. I don't know all the laws, but I'm just saying states can make a difference right away.
Mm-hmm.
So if all the states start doing it and governors start getting involved, you have to hold whoever's in office accountable for what they say. So moving on. I just learned about this in class. Called the Second Amendment right, and in states and federal law. We've talked about this on the show in the past about gun laws and it being a cannabis consumer. A FOID card here in Illinois or around the country. Federally, you cannot sell somebody who uses any drug, especially level 1. That they can't purchase a gun. It's federally illegal. So I know some states are different. Illinois, in the state level, you can, but federally you still can't, so you still can't buy it. They will decline you. So, but I know now GOP Congressman Bill, they're trying to protect consumer Second Amendment right with cannabis use. It's called the H.R. 28030, the Gun Rights and Cannabis Act, filed on Thursday last Thursday by Representative Don Young, Republican, Arkansas, and 2 GOP co-sponsors, adds a short provision to existing federal law specifying that the term unlawful... I know I screwed it up. I know. Mrs. Weedman's laughing her ass off. It's okay.
I like that. Specifying.
You like that? The term unlawful user or addicted to any controlled substance shall not include a person by reason or unlawful use of addiction to, they say, marijuana, cannabis. So they're...
I don't even get that. So, if you have a medical card, you
Yes.
cannot purchase a gun.
No.
So, if you had
If it's
guns
federally
prior to
You
getting,
you can
you
have
can
them.
keep those. You just can't purchase
you can't
more.
purchase a new gun.
Okay.
If you
But
use and you have to sign a form too when you're buying the gun. Do you use any illegal drugs?
Right.
And marijuana is listed on there. And if you say no and they find you, they can actually fine you and arrest you. If you say yes, you're going to get declined. Maybe not by the state, but don't forget everything goes through.
on to
it
federal.
goes to federal to get your record checked out.
But my thing is in states where it's recreationally legal,
doesn't matter.
but you don't have a medical card, so you're not on file as being a cannabis user.
Every time.
So if you don't have a medical card, you're just a recreational cannabis purchaser and user. You can go to a gun shop and legally buy a gun if you lie on that form and say that you don't use cannabis.
Yes.
But you, as a medical card holder, if you lied on that form and said you don't use cannabis, they cross-reference at state level and see that you're a medical card holder and you get declined.
Bad boys, bad boys.
What you gonna do?
What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, bad
Gosh.
boys.
It doesn't even make sense.
But this law that they're trying to pass is going to hopefully fix this. Because here's my thing, and I've been thinking about this article a lot, and the reading of this, and then learning about it in school. How many people drink alcohol and carry guns
Right.
and use guns?
Right.
And how many people have shot somebody? I don't.
when
I
they're
need to
liquored
look
up.
it up. How many people
Right.
have shot somebody, have gotten arrested for being drunk and shooting somebody? And versus how many people have smoked cannabis and shot somebody. So the thing is, we all know that alcohol, and listen, Mrs. Weedman and I drink a glass of wine. We have a couple beers here and there. We're not big alcohol consumers. We just don't. I mean, not since I was in my 20s, so I like to smoke weed. Alcohol, I don't mind drinking alcohol. I hate being hung over. So I don't get drunk anymore. Doesn't matter. That's just me. I hate waking up the next day and feeling like shit. Weed, cannabis doesn't do that to me. But how come people that use alcohol get to carry a gun?
I don't know. That doesn't
You know,
even make
that's
sense.
the question. I don't care if you drink alcohol and carry a gun. It's your Second Amendment right. But people that smoke cannabis, I'm not thinking about going out and shooting somebody when I'm smoking weed. Ever. My guns don't leave my house. So, I don't know. I have 2 guns and they never leave my house. So, my thing is, why can't a cannabis smoker be able to get a gun if a person who's a proven alcoholic gets to carry a gun around? So that's just my 2 cents. Take it or leave it. I just think the Second Amendment Act, you should be able to have a cannabis card and be able a medical card and be able to own a gun. So, didn't you get a gift one time to get your DNA tested?
Mm-hmm.
You never did it, did you?
No.
You gave it away, right?
I
hope
decided.
Hope your mom's not listening. Because I think she's the one that got it.
Well, not only did I ask for the DNA kit as a gift, but then I decided when I got it that there could be a conspiracy.
Well, then you got your
And so
file.
I kept staring at the box, and I stared at it, and I never opened it, and I gave it to my other sister because I just thought the government was trying to. I was that important that the government wanted to know more about me.
Know what's in your body. But we talked about this on a couple episodes ago about people one day being able to get their DNA tested to find out what kind of strain would be match their DNA. Didn't we talk about that a couple weeks ago? We didn't. We said we would find some information on it. Mrs. Weedman, take it away.
So check this out. There is a test called the Endocanna Health, and it goes way beyond testing for indica or sativa, right? So let's set a familiar scene here. You're at a party or you're just at a friend's house and everyone's hanging out, and all of a sudden a joint gets passed around, right? So you're like, why not? I'm going to give it a hit. And what happens? Well, you feel calm, you feel euphoric, relaxation ensues, and the rest of the day is a lovely haze. You think, those anti-drug campaigns couldn't have been more wrong. Cannabis is welcome. It's great, right? So there's your perfect
that
scenario.
Jack Herrera's fucking hitting hood right now.
Unless it doesn't go down like that, because for some people, it's a nightmare instead of a daydream. The paranoia and anxiety set in. Every bad thing that's ever happened comes rushing into their brain. They're too anxious to be around other people, and they head home to lie in a dark space and stare uneasily at the ceiling until it passes. Well, why does it happen, right? Well, Endocanna Health knows the answer, and they want to help you understand it too. Not by looking at the weed itself, but by working backward and looking inward at your DNA.
Ooh, I don't know if I want them looking inward.
I know. See? Named after the endocannabinoid system, which research shows functions as a sort of universal regulator, maintaining homeostasis. Yeah. That weed's kicking in. Named after the endocannabinoid system, which research shows functions as a sort of universal regulator, maintaining homeostasis. I didn't get it right again.
That's okay.
Between all of the body's other systems, their emphasis on personalized results help consumers avoid uncomfortable or overreactive experiences with cannabis. Solving that anxiety problem and plenty of other cannabis-related concerns is exactly what Endocanna has set out to do. Their DNA kit, the DNA testing kit, available for $199, gives a rundown of everything in the user's genetic makeup that might cause an adverse reaction, along with the potential upsides of using weed medicinally. Using weed proactively for preventative care and to disrupt America's for-profit healthcare system is part of Endocanna's mission and part of their appeal. Operating similarly to DNA tests like 23andMe or Ancestry DNA, which use their results to focus on genealogy, Endocanna's tests highlight certain genetic predispositions that might interact with cannabinoids or cannabis compounds. The two most common cannabinoids are THC, the psychoactive chemical, and CBD, the anti-psychoactive compound that moderates the high caused by THC. Certain DNA is locked in, like our hair color, skin color, eye color, explains Endocanna's CEO, Len May, who has a master's of medical cannabis, along with 25 years of cannabis-related experience. The other parts of our DNA, we have the control to turn on and off, like a light switch. Certain cannabinoids, nutrients, vitamins, how we live our life, and even our mental state can help express those genetic predispositions and turn those switches on. We're telling you the genetic blueprint and giving you the GPS to navigate it. Just because you have a genetic predisposition to certain conditions doesn't necessarily mean they will manifest. It simply means the potential for them to flare up is there. After taking the DNA test earlier this month, one of the first things that popped up under my results was in the anxiety section, where my DNA revealed the presence of multiple variants for fear extinction, PTSD, and stress reactivity. Fear extinction is the brain's ability to fade memories of traumatic or adverse events, but when those memories aren't extinguished, they can linger and pop back up, which is the anxiety loop that cannabis use can trigger. The report gives you a color-coded summary of different symptomatic conditions and what your genetic predisposition is, Mays says. Green means there's no variant detected. There's no genetic risk associated with that condition. Yellow means there's a variant detected. You have a slight genetic risk. Red means that you have multiple variants detected and you have an exponentially high risk of that genetic predisposition expressing itself. For my fear extinction variant, which fell into the red level of multiple variants detected, Endocanna recommended a CBD to THC level of 20:1, along with specific terpenes, which are the aromatic plant compounds found in high concentrations in cannabis that will react positively with the condition, and finally links out to products that will fit within those parameters. It's not quite a prescription, but it's a much closer and more precise way of using cannabis than hitting a friend's joint at a party or buying whatever catches your eye at the local dispensary. The realization that a negative reaction to weed and an uncomfortable amount of paranoia isn't my fault at all, but it's literally in my DNA, takes the pressure off. As our knowledge base about cannabis continues to grow, May predicts that people will become more interested in terpene profiles than strains, or designations like indica and sativa. The secret sauce to finding the right product is the cannabinoid ratio, but also terpene profiles, May says. It's the essential oils the plant produces. And in cannabis, these essential oils interact with cannabinoids to produce an effect. Indicas are heavy with myrcene, which is a sedative when mixed with cannabinoids, and sativas are high in limonene that boosts dopamine and gives you a pick-me-up.
That dopamine, yo.
Of course, the anxiety-inducing element of a certain THC ratio is a relatively simple problem to fix with Endocanna's DNA testing. For people who are using cannabis for severe medical issues or combining it with other prescription drugs, the information from this kind of genetic testing can be instrumental for overall health.
I do like that.
It is pretty neat.
Yeah.
The report takes a look at other elements like potential interaction with prescription drugs, digestion, sleep, mood, cognitive function, and metabolism. But particularly in the case of drug interaction in cannabis, the reports Endocanna is offering are cutting edge. That's huge.
Dope. Yeah.
So very few people are talking about drug interaction with cannabis, May says. If you're taking an SSRI or an antidepressant, cannabinoids can actually inhibit the efficacy of your SSRI, especially CBD, which will limit the efficacy of your SSRI, suppressing how it is supposed to work. If you want to scale back your prescription, don't consume them at the same time. Work on that balance under medical supervision. That doesn't mean you can't take cannabis with an antidepressant. It usually means don't take it together at the same time. Stagger your consumption and speak to your healthcare professional about it. For frequent cannabis users who plan to keep consuming into the unforeseeable future, investing in Endocanna's testing is a great way to ensure you're getting the right weed for the right occasion and for your genetic makeup. Even if you don't live in a state or county or even country where weed is legal, since the company itself doesn't market or sell cannabis products, the DNA test is available globally. And every single purchase comes with a concierge session with a DNA specialist who can point out the important and relevant variants in the report. Cannabis is the safest medicine we've ever had, May said, and it's personalized, so you have to understand these things about yourself. And the more you know about yourself and the more action you will be able to take. Our for-profit health system isn't going to support us like we want it to. We have to be a lot more proactive about our health and preventative health. A lot of times we rely on for-profit health systems, and with them, there's no cure. And that's what we're here to disrupt. So I like their modus operandi.
Yeah.
I think that they have
Yeah.
a neat, interesting product that can help a lot of. I think that there's, even if you are using cannabis medically, or if you're using it symptomatically and purposely, like with intention, I think there's also times where once you enjoy the plant and learn enough about the plant, you're still going to want to do some recreational use.
Of course.
And for that, you're just going to smoke whatever,
Right.
have
But
fun.
it is good. It is. I like what they say about if you're on some kind of other medication and you might not be able to smoke because they don't know what's in it or what is actually
How it reacts.
What cannabinoid might be doing it to you, or the terpene that's in it. You might be allergic to lavender, which is sometimes one of the terpenes that's in cannabis, linalool, and you might be allergic to that or might have a reaction to the medication you're taking, and that DNA test can say, well, you cannot smoke any strains that have this terpene in here because this can have a reaction to the medication you're taking. But if you don't take it, you can smoke cannabis. And that could help that person even more. I kind of like it. Kind of weird, because I don't know if I want them taking my DNA and using it for, like, creating more weed men like myself. That's kind of dangerous.
They're gonna clone you. That's what I thought they were gonna do with me. Like, once they got my DNA, they'd be like, "This is the one. This is it. We got the shit.
We need the Mrs. Weed
We
Man.
gotta make more of her."
All over.
And then there'd be like little me's running around. No, that's
You could be like little mini me's going, I love you.
it was just like you
love
could buy
you.
Mrs. Weedman doll at the store. Meow.
Mini.
I get shit done.
Oh shit.
No.
States where cannabis legalization can be in play, might be in play, out of play, might be in the penalty box for 2021. So let's start with recreational first. So Connecticut, Delaware, and Rhode Island are possibly to likely to go fully legal. It's kind of in the mix. I know Connecticut's almost there, Delaware's almost there, Rhode Island's like coming close. So and then unlikely to maybe is Minnesota, and then Pennsylvania is unlikely for 2021. I think they were saying 2022 that Pennsylvania was possibly going to go fully rec. So but keep on fighting a good fight, man. Recreational. Medical, Alabama, roll tide.
Jeez.
Possibly to likely. I think they're just about done. But don't forget, I haven't read anything new about them allowing flower, edibles, stuff like that. So as I hopefully find out more, I'll let everybody in Alabama know. North Carolina, maybe. That's a big one. That's not a no. And then unlikely to possibly maybe more unlikely is South Carolina, Kansas, and Nebraska. So I know they've been putting bills on the table. I know that one South Carolina senator said he wouldn't pass another bill or sign another bill into law until medical cannabis was at least on the table moving forward. So I know there's a lot of people fighting out there for it, but at least, there's bills being brought up. There's attention being brought up. You never know what could happen in the next year, this year, going into next year. Crazier things have happened, that's for sure. Illinois, man, just breaking records. I'm not a Bears fan, but I know a lot of people are out there. You guys picked up a really good quarterback. I'll break off for a second on Illinois, break some records. You broke one record. You finally got a good fucking quarterback. Wow. That was a big pick for you guys. Anyway, so breaking some records for April data. Recreational adult use cannabis sales figures for April. You all came out strong on 420, that's for sure. In-state resident sales, $79,909,284.92.
1 month.
April.
Damn.
Out-of-state residents, thank you. I'll say it again. Wisconsin, Iowa, Missouri, Indiana. I want to say thank you. Oh, Kentucky. Don't forget about Kentucky because Illinois borders a little bit of Kentucky. Out-of-state sales. Oh, I just found out they opened up a dispensary in Metropolis, Illinois, on the border. Yep.
Huh.
All you Kentuckians, baby. 35,052,383.30.
Dang.
A total of 114,961,668.22.
How is there even stigmas and judgment against weed? Apparently, everybody is
And if
smoking
you
it.
had medical in there, the whole state did like over 100, close to or over $150 million in sales.
It's got to be in like every other household.
All I got to say is this: for all you people out there that are against home grow, that's 1 month sales, okay? And it's gone up every month this year. Up, and up like a rocket ship. Craziness how much exponential growth. And all you out there, I got to say this because I'm a home grower. I originally grow, ocean grown, OG grower, whatever you want to call yourselves out there. There's a lot of home growers now. And there's a lot of corporations fighting against home grown states. And I'm going to say this. The numbers don't lie because everything's tracked through the system. If every state gets tracked by the government, by the state governments of what's running through. If you cannot survive on $114 million in 1 month, pay your bills, pay your staff, pay yourself, then it's just greed. There's a lot of podcasters out there right now, not only myself, especially a few in Chicago, a few writers in Illinois, talking about this, asking questions, going up against the corporations who are against home grow. I'm going to tell you this. It will not stop people from going out and buying cannabis. The numbers don't lie. Let people home grow. Free the plant so people can make their own medicine. $114 million. Oregon just did 110 for their sales for 1 month in April. 110 million.
And you can grow at home there?
I don't know if you can grow in Oregon. I know California you can. I don't know about Oregon. I never looked. So could look it up one day for you all. But there's states now allowing, like we just read about Virginia, without even being able to have a dispensary open yet, you can grow 2 plants. That's fine. I'm happy we're growing 2 plants. What I'm just telling you is stop fighting it, corporations, if you're doing it. Government, add it in your bills to let people home grow. There's a lot of people out there that are not going to be able to afford the pricing of cannabis in dispensaries, but they can afford to buy a small little 1-plant tent and grow consistently and afford their medicine. You pay themselves back. So they're going to go to the black market where it's cheaper anyway. So let people home grow. But good for you, Illinois, Oregon. Numbers are coming in from April. You can look it up online in your state if you want to know what that tax dollars that's coming from that too. Shit, tax money coming out every month. It's supposed to be going to social equity programs, help building, businesses back and getting people jobs and getting people out of poverty. Don't forget that tax dollars, only like a quarter of that's supposed to be used for government, like paying people and all that kind of stuff, 10%, 5%. The rest is supposed to be used for programs, school programs, building new infrastructure programs, helping people get better job programs, should be free colleges for people that can't afford it. There's a lot of things we could be doing with that money. So, and if you're not getting that money, it's not. I know Illinois just sent $30 million to social equity programs in Chicago and around the Chicagoland area. I know that they did some money with that, so that was good.
Can I just say that probably 90% of people can't afford college?
Right.
That's jacked up.
Right.
The cost of education. But that's a whole different
to
podcast.
all you kids out there that listen to us, to all you young adults that listen to us out there, to all you parents that listen to us out there, we're not talking bad about school.
No, I'm just saying the cost.
The cost. Trust me, we are paying. We're paying a loan for a student loan for our daughter, and we took out 80%. She did 20%, and we split the cost. It was great that we did it, but it does cost a lot of money to send people to college when it shouldn't be that much money. I mean, junior colleges or state-run colleges, they should be free with the tax dollars we're earning from fucking.
At least they're affordable,
right? So
for most people, and they've got programs to help subsidize.
Don't get people in debt right when they're coming out of college. I mean, you start them off big money out of college, stuff like that. So just take care of the people with this tax dollars that you're getting off of cannabis and let people home grow. Montana Senate passes bill to implement adult use cannabis program. Good for you, Montana. Keep on going with it. I know there's a lot of fights going up there. Medical cannabis patients are boycotting dispensaries over a legalization stance in Delaware, saying that they are charging way too much money for cannabis in the dispensaries out there. There's a lot of people protesting. walking the streets holding signs up, overpriced and understocked. Terrible. That's why you should let people home grow. Philadelphia, go Philly, bans pre-employment drug testing for cannabis. Philadelphia City Council has banned pre-employment drug screenings for cannabis by most businesses in the city. Good for you. The bill, which was approved by 15-1, prohibits employers. How about being that one? Like 15 people vote yes, and you're
that
one
one
person,
guy that's like, no.
You're the one person that said, "What is wrong with you?" Like, just join the party then. Don't. Why you got to be that one? I was thinking about that when I was looking at this.
Who is that guy?
All right. Oh shit. So good for you, Philly. Keep on going, fighting for the cannabis community there. So there's some rankings and who smokes the most pot by state. I'm not gonna read them all. I think you can go on to 27wallstreet.com. It has the article if you want to read where you're at in that state. I'm just gonna say I was pretty shocked of the number one. But then you got to look at per capita, how many people are in that state, so then it kind of made sense. But noteworthy states, Oregon, Colorado, Maine, Washington are in your tops. California's up there. But number one was Vermont. I was shocked. Bernie Sanders just throwing big fat doinks to everybody out there. You get a doink, you get a doink, you get a doink. Go Bernie. Feel the burn. So Vermont, number one. Not a lot of people live in Vermont. That's why. Not a very big state, but still big clouds coming out of that state. This whole controversy about Delta 8 THC right now. Someone just sent me a text a little while ago. I think it was Dov Boy sent me a text that a bar in the north side of the city has their own brand of Delta 8 now, a bar restaurant.
Really?
Yeah. So Delta 8, and they're selling it because it's CBD. But the state of Washington is clarifying that Delta 8 THC is not legal under current regulations.
Because it's over 0.3% THC.
Some of it is, but it's just not.
It's a different cannabinoid.
Yeah.
So they can't measure it.
Right. So Washington regulators issued a policy statement this week clarifying that Delta 8 THC products are not legal under the state's cannabis regulations. The Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board issued a policy statement this week to clarify that neither Delta 8 THC products nor the conversion of CBD hemp products or Delta 9 THC to Delta 8 THC or any other cannabinoid are currently allowed under Washington law. In their statement, the LCB said it was aware of edibles and concentrates in Washington cannabis market that contain Delta 8 THC and has confirmed the presence of Delta 8 THC products in markets outside of their jurisdiction. According to the statement, the Controlled Substance section of the Revised Code of Washington indeed regulates cis or trans tetrahydrocannabinol as the optical isomers. Regulators additionally cited that the RCW covering unfair business practices and said it is unfair or deceptive practice for any person or entity to distribute, to sell, or to purchase any product that contains any amount of any synthetic cannabinoid. In the statement, the WSLCB raises other concerns about unnatural chemicals producing during Delta 8 THC synthesis, lacking concentrations and potencies, thresholds, and shortage of labs capable of testing for the cannabinoid. That's what Tim Cash said from Orgo Labs. Despite their ban on generally or chemically derived Delta 8, however, regulators said they will allow cultivated Delta 8 THC, seeming to carve out an exception for the cannabinoid produced naturally by the cannabis plant. Interesting. Washington joined a growing list of states that are enacted or clarified cannabis industry rules related to the manufacturing sale of Delta 8 THC products. So there's so much stuff right now about Delta 8. Delta 8 coming from CBD, Delta 8 coming from THC, Delta 8 coming from synthetics. Everything I read, probably one out of every 4 or 5 articles now is about Delta 8. Yeah, and I'm seeing it all over the fucking place. It's crazy. I still haven't tried it. I just doesn't interest me because I have Delta 9.
But it's not synthetic. It's coming from the hemp plant.
Some of them are. Some of them
are
synthetic, and some of it's coming from THC. They're saying Washington's saying if you could prove that it's coming from the ground and you're growing it through the earth, it's fine. If you're growing it synthetic, if you're making it synthetically, it's illegal. So, like we talked about, people don't know what they're getting if you're buying it from. If you're seeing it online from some shop you've never heard of, or you're getting it overseas, or you're getting it from the gas station or whatever, you don't know what's in this stuff. So before you start taking stuff, do the research on the company, make sure it's tested. I would still only buy from a dispensary if you can't grow your own. When it comes to stuff like this, not saying stop buying from your plug. That's up to you. I'm not here to judge, or I'm not the jury. So,
But does the black market have Delta 9 and CBD? No,
they
they're
have
not.
Delta 9. That's THC. It's pure. That's weed.
But you're saying this Delta 9 is in the CBD products that they're selling
Delta
now.
8.
Oh, Delta 8.
Delta 8.
Okay, Delta 8. Sorry. Yes, Delta 9's old. Sorry.
So I don't know. I'm still not trying it. I'm sure I will one day. Something cool here. The movement to legalize cannabis is finally finding success. Gay activism helped start it. I thought this was really interesting by the LGBTQ nation. I thought it was very interesting. And after years of the war on drugs and nearly a century of staunch anti-cannabis policies, the United States is nearing full legalization of cannabis substances in medical and recreational form. Nearly half of the country now lives in states where cannabis is legal. All of this progress builds on decades' worth of work by committed activists, with gay activists playing an outsized role and push for legalization. In 2021 alone, New York, New Mexico, Virginia have passed legalization that the possession or use of recreational cannabis is legal. It's advancing in other states like we talked about. Last fall, voters in conservative states like South Dakota, Mississippi, Montana all approved ballot measures to loosen restrictions on cannabis. The U.S. House of Reps have passed bills legalizing cannabis. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has pledged to move ahead with a bill in the upper chamber, despite Biden's reluctance on the issue. As with a lot of progressive policy, San Francisco was at the forefront of cannabis acceptance. The city's large gay population was incidental to the cause. In many ways, it was the reason for it. The push to decriminalize cannabis possession started in the 1970s. Before his assassination in 1978, Harvey Milk pushed a non-binding ballot measures requesting the city district attorney to stop prosecuting cannabis possession and usage. The effort to legalize cannabis ramped up considerably with the advent of AIDS in the 1980s. Treatments for the disease were poor at best. Cannabis emerged as a legitimate treatment for pain and loss of appetite that were common with AIDS. Activists and hospitalized volunteer, we've talked about Brownie Mary before, toured the wards of San Francisco and General Hospital offering cannabis brownies to AIDS patients. The person who did the most to push legalization in the Golden City and eventually all of California was Dennis Peron, who became known as the gay father of medical cannabis. Prom was a Vietnam War vet, sold medical cannabis on the storefront in Castro. In the Castro, seeing the benefits of cannabis for people with AIDS, Perron organized a statewide measure to legalize medical cannabis. The initiative passed in 1996 and more than 3/4 of the vote. The issue was personal for Perron. His partner died from AIDS. Having the largest state legalize medical cannabis was the start of a broader acceptance for usage in all forms. While it wasn't all of the hard to get approved for medical usage, the move from legalizing medical cannabis to legalizing recreational became surely inevitable. Years later, in a perfect pairing, the first ballot measure to legalize recreational cannabis in Colorado and Washington State both appeared at the same time as a ballot measure to legalize marriage equality. Both measures passed handily in both states. The speed in which the attitudes changed around the issues is remarkably similar. At the turn of the century, about a third of voters supported legalizing cannabis and a third supported marriage equality. Both issues are now supported by 2/3 of Americans. Once significant split on the issue, a majority of evangelists support cannabis legalization will still oppose LGBTQ rights. Chasing societal attitudes in time of consuming work, as LGBTQ activists can attest to, it is no wonder gay men like Dennis Peron applied those same lessons to the quest to legalize cannabis, and with the same winning effect. That's a great article. Once again, it's by the LGBTQ Nation. We have, I think it's a powerful article because of that whole San Francisco Bay Area with the fight to get it legalized there for helping people with AIDS. It just, you owe a lot to the gay community, the LGBTQ. Thank you for helping get cannabis moving forward and fighting every day. Thanks for fighting for all the burners, stoners, and potheads out there. Here's a crusher. The U.S. is trying to ban backwoods, Swisher Sweets, and all other flavored blunt wraps.
Why?
Man, I like my grape owls.
I don't want anything to be flavored.
No.
They did that with vapes too,
Yep.
didn't they?
On April 29th, the Food and Drug Administration announced plans to ban menthol-flavored cigarettes and all flavored cigars starting in 2022. The FDA proposed response to a lawsuit from the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council calling for the national ban, which would target makers and sellers, not users of menthols and flavored cigars. So how are we supposed to get our flavored tobacco leaves?
You have to buy essential oils and add it.
Tobacco companies will likely challenge this decision in court, according to Stat News. But such a ban would affect many cannabis consumers, primarily black smokers who roll cannabis into flavored tobacco or cigar leaves, commonly called a blunt. Half of cigar sales in 2020 were two flavored brands, Black and Mild, followed by Switcher Sweets. A 2020 study found that a third of the weed consumers smoke blunts, while almost 2/3 of African American weed consumers smoke blunts. A separate study of blunt wraps brand Backwoods tag content on Instagram found that half of the number of Backwood posts were cannabis related. So I hope they don't, because I'll miss smoking my White Owl grape blunts with Dog Boy in the summer times outside. So I hope they don't. We'll see what happens. I'm sure there's going to be a big fight and delay. Who knows? What do we try to do on this show, Mrs. Weedman?
We are constantly trying to stomp the stigma.
Stomp
it out.
Stomp the stigma.
And so I've got this next article here, and it's all about the illusion that the stigma has changed, but in fact, discrimination still holds strong. And I just thought I should probably, we don't really talk about our sources of our information. Mr. Weedman does a lot of our research for the show and pulls articles from a variety of cannabis sites.
Probably read about
magazines.
100 to 150 a week.
And some of it's just from the general newspaper, off the beaten track kind of media. But anyway,
I mean, I'm talking about like
everywhere, international, all over.
International news. You're talking about websites. You're talking about news articles. You're talking about social
articles.
Media. Yeah. I just read at least 150 things I read a week.
Yeah,
easy.
So this source of this this article that I'm going to read about the stigma still being strong comes from a website called cbdtesters.co. And I thought I should know a little bit about them. Well, CBD Testers has a mission, and it is to lead the way in providing medical cannabis information that is accurate, effective, and reliable. They aim to empower people who want to learn about available solutions for their specific medical conditions, as well as those seeking wellness and healthy lifestyle alternatives. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And this corresponds with what you were just talking about. They have on their page, their About Us page, they have a Delta 8 THC disclaimer.
Huh.
Interesting. So it says, in the Delta 8 weekly newsletter, which they write, we only provide the list of available products and we don't sell them directly, as the legality of Delta 8 products falls in a gray area and might be considered illegal by the DEA. So there you have it.
Yeah, there you
Nobody really knows what to do with it right now.
Because you need to federally legalize cannabis so you can study it.
Yeah, but with the Delta 8, they don't know, like, is it cannabis? Is it hemp? It's a gray area.
Yeah,
so they'll figure it out.
Gray. Like my beard. Gray.
Yeah, gray. So here we go. Discrimination, stigma, it is there. It's strong. It's present, right? On the surface, it may seem that the world has finally grown to accept cannabis, the plant, the user, and the culture. Laws are relaxing, legal markets are becoming increasingly common, and high-end lab-tested products are available. One thing that's proving more difficult to shake, though, is the stigma that has been a dark cloud over cannabis use for decades. Where did these ideas originate, and why are they so hard to break away from? Well, we're going to talk about that. This is a long one. It's a bit of a soapbox, but I think it's super important because that's really what we use this platform and this podcast for, is breaking this stigma and trying to create some neutrality and better understanding of cannabis.
Yeah, we're trying to learn and help others learn every day. So
So this is coming from the journalist. He or she says, I enjoy smoking weed outside. I come from a rural area where I had a large private backyard, friendly progressive neighbors, and smoking around my property was just something I did without even giving it any thought. I recently sold my home and have been temporarily living in a more condensed suburbia type of neighborhood for the last few months. Here, weed is not okay. Trying to be somewhat discreet, I've been sticking to quietly smoking in my garage while keeping an eye on my oldest son as he plays with the other kids in the neighborhood. One afternoon, one of my son's friends approaches me in the garage and said, "Oh, you're smoking that stuff again?" My mom said I'm not allowed to smell it. And unfortunately, that's not the only comment I've heard, but that's the one that sticks out the most to me. So clearly, my cannabis habits are being discussed among other parents, and clearly, they don't approve. It's worth mentioning that block parties with drinking are a semi-regular thing, but a measly bud has everyone up in arms. It baffles my mind. But as all the neighbors continue to rally against my pot use, it has shed a light on how many people still hold on to these negative views about cannabis and how ingrained this stigma remains in our society. Cannabis and other psychedelic plants have been used therapeutically in Eastern traditional medicine for centuries, and its use has been noted in numerous different countries and continents throughout history. Even in the United States, the value of cannabis as a healing plant was known far and wide. Back then, Eli Lilly, Bristol Myers Squibb, and other major pharmaceutical brands were using cannabis extracts, sometimes even whole plant matter, in their formulations. A New York Times article from 1876 even cites the use of cannabis to cure a condition referred to back then as dropsy, which was swelling in the soft tissue from an accumulation of fluids in the body. Today, this would be known as edema. Before 1910, the word marijuana didn't even exist in American culture. It was known by its scientific name because recreational use was not very widespread at the time. Following a wave of legal immigration into the early 1900s, the idea of recreational cannabis use was on the rise. The government used that as a scapegoat to push ridiculous cannabis regulation. But it's one of the situations where it's really hard to determine cause and effect. Was the uptick in cannabis use caused by the new citizens and population growth, or were these two events completely unrelated and just occurring at the same time? Cannabis was nothing new, and increased curiosity and use seemed inevitable. Regardless, once the government realized people were using cannabis for fun and not just to treat chronic illness, the war on weed began. A familiar name in modern cannabis history is Harry Anslinger, the first commissioner.
We call him Ass Slinger or Ass Licker on this show.
Harry Ass Licker. He was the first commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. When he got appointed is when the word marijuana started to make the headlines and the word cannabis became a thing of the past. It really shows how powerful the parallel between language and public opinion. Although cannabis was a medicinal plant that was relatively well known in the United States, marijuana was seen as a dangerous drug that creeped into the shadows of America's counterculture. Many point to the fact that without this fabricated war on drugs, Anslinger would have had nothing to do and inevitably would have lost his position. So he took some disturbingly racist ideologies, a lot of fear-mongering, and a touch of hardcore conservatism, and weaved together what would end up being a decades-long campaign against a harmless plant and many innocent people. Among one of Anslinger's most powerful weapons was his manipulation of the media and understanding of public perception. On the milder end of things, he was perpetuating the negative cannabis stereotypes we still hear today. Marijuana users are lazy, unmotivated, unintelligent, reckless, thoughtless, dangerous, low lives.
Oh, can I say something?
Yeah.
I was going to say for the next episode, I just want to say something. They just did a study that cannabis users are more active than just normal people. I'm going to save that for the next episode.
Yeah, I want to hear about that. On the more extreme side of the spectrum, he insisted that cannabis use led to insanity, criminality, and death, and that smoking marijuana cigarettes for a month would cause a completely normal person's brain to be nothing but a storehouse of horrid spectators.
I've been smoking since I was 13. Do I look crazy to you?
No.
All right.
He added that hashish makes a murderer who kills for the love of killing out of the mildest mannered man. Give me a frickin' break. Yes, he was very dramatic, but that proved to be incredibly effective. In 1936, an infamous propaganda film called Reefer Madness hit the screens. In the movie, teenagers try smoking weed for the first time, and their night spirals into a series of horrific events, such as disturbing hallucinations, attempted rape, and ultimately murder. The movie was right in line with what Anslinger had been babbling about, and people were terrified that marijuana was going to corrupt their youth. Cannabis quickly became public enemy number one, and we've been fighting the negative reputation ever since. Only in the last few years have we seen decades of activism come to fruition with more mainstream recognition and legal leniency. That said, we're still a long way from where we need to be, and much of the roadblocks have been a direct result of the existing cannabis stigma. Because of the way cannabis is viewed, it's always been difficult to pass any kind of progressive legislation, which means research efforts are hindered, an outrageous number of citizens have criminal charges for cannabis possession, and in general, people suffer because of these outdated attitudes. Cannabis users have reported stigma in the form of discrimination, rejection, and judgment in many different social contexts and from many different types of people. Most commonly, it's experienced in the workplace, housing, and travel. For example, it is well known that most jobs drug test all potential hirees, and cannabis is usually a disqualifying factor. Not only that, but cannabis can stay in the system longer than any substance. Give it like 15 days on average, right? But drugs like meth and heroin only stick around for 2 or 3 days. So it's more likely that a cannabis user would fail an employment drug screen than a user of hard drugs. In housing, we face unique issues as well. When you rent a home or apartment, there are often stipulations in the rental agreement regarding smoking. Typically, if you're found to be smoking, then you'll need to pay an extra cleaning fee when you move out. Sometimes it's small and insignificant, but other times the fee is rather exorbitant, and in some extreme cases, the person could be kicked out of their home for breach of contract. The obvious issue here is people who smoke cannabis for wellness reasons are still on the hook financially, even if they can provide a medical recommendation. The same thing happens at hotels, Airbnbs, and other short-term lodging facilities, which can make traveling a seriously daunting task for a medical cannabis user. Researchers from the University of Amsterdam recently set out to understand this phenomenon even better by comparing 7 European countries to see if the stigma was higher in areas where cannabis was more strictly criminalized. The result, which found a definitive link between criminality and stigma, were published in the European Journal of Criminology. Although the study was conducted overseas, the same principles apply here in the States. In a state like California or Colorado, you're more likely to find a large number of people who are not only accepting of, but open and transparent about cannabis use than you would in a state like Alabama or Mississippi. This all makes sense considering the cannabis stigma only became a thing when public views and laws began to regress. Remember, less than a couple hundred years ago, cannabis was widely accepted, easily accessible, and heavily utilized as a herbal remedy. But in the early 1900s, anti-cannabis campaigns were in full force, filling people's minds with misinformation and fear. In this new age, cannabis was a threat, and it had no medicinal value, and stigmatization of cannabis users became a societal norm. Medical stigma is real too, and it's dangerous. Stigma and discrimination in healthcare is well documented, and it has a profound impact on the treatment and health outcomes of patients who experience it. Examples of this can include making people wait longer for care, passing on their care to junior colleagues or students, outright denial of care, threats of legal action, or even verbal and physical abuse. The fear of being judged can make people completely avoid much-needed medical procedures and put them in possibly life-threatening situations. For instance, take a woman who is using cannabis to minimize her anxiety while dealing with some mild postpartum depression. To me, that seems perfectly reasonable, normal, and even responsible, since I view cannabis as being much safer than prescription medication. But a medical doctor would feel different, urging her to switch from cannabis to some type of antidepressant and mandating drug tests to make sure she stops smoking weed. If she fails the next drug test, she will be threatened with legal action and might even lose custody of her child. And from that point, it can take years, if ever, to regain control of her life. Knowing all of this, it's more likely that this hypothetical woman will avoid talking to her healthcare professional at all. In this circumstance, and in a perfect world where cannabis research was more widely accepted, a combination of therapy and cannabis treatment would preferably be a perfect remedy. But in a world of politicized healthcare, what is best for us takes a backseat to what is most profitable. A Canadian study surveyed 23 individuals who used cannabis therapeutically for a wide range of health problems to determine how the stigma affects their treatment and daily lives, as well as to see what they do to manage it. Some people have been denied other medications based on their cannabis use, been intimidated by their doctors, had to pass up certain jobs, and some have lost friends and relatives who have stopped talking to them. The most common strategy for minimizing these issues was to be more secretive about their cannabis use. But stop and think for a minute how ridiculous that sounds. Would someone taking heart medications or something for high cholesterol or blood pressure have to hide their health condition to avoid being judged? Do diabetics have to hide in their car to check their glucose levels for fear of being fired if anyone finds out they have a chronic disease? So why is this a problem for people medicating with cannabis? So really, I mean, we just have to be the change, right? We have to talk more, be loud, be unashamed of your cannabis use, be part of the movement that pushes cannabis forward. Often the people who are least vocal about it are the ones that would do the most to shatter these preconceived notions that people have. The quiet biology teacher that goes home and smokes a joint to unwind from dealing with other people's teenagers all day long. The firefighter who likes to munch on some edibles after a 72-hour shift. The old combat veteran down the street who hates taking 12 pills a day and chooses to light up instead. It won't always be in your face cannabis activist types that make political waves. It has to be a combined effort of everyone who has the privilege of utilizing the cannabis plant's undeniable benefits. Everybody. Because together is the only way we will move past cannabis stigma.
The cannabis community right there.
Everybody.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Right? It's a long one, but I thought that was important.
That's why when I found it and I read it, I was like, it's powerful. It was powerful writing. It was powerful, like, to learn about his experiences and what he has to go through and being in his own home, you know, hiding in his garage and a young little kid telling him, my parents said, look, you're smoking. I'm not supposed to smell that, you know, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's just, I thought it was great for you to research and read about because there was so much good stuff in that article. So well written and well, hopefully everybody understood that. I mean, a lot of that history on there we've talked about on the show. It's just good that every time we talk about it, it sticks in people's heads because some people might not have heard some of the episodes that we talked about Harry Asslicker, you know, and Slinger and just, you know, such a good, well-written article, you know. I thought it was powerful, so I thought it was great stuff.
I think so, too.
Yeah, yeah. Mexican lawmakers fail to legalize cannabis ahead of Supreme Court deadline. We're in international news now, everyone, so it's just crazy that this was supposed to be done. Mexico's supposed to be the largest, with 127 million people in that country, the largest country to legalize cannabis, and it'll be the largest market because it's one country. Crazy that we still keep on. Oh, you went for hit number 2 on Jack Herrera?
I just felt like it.
Damn, look at you.
I don't have to read anymore. Nothing long anyway.
Just crazy that this should have been done, and it just keeps on getting drawn out. The crazy thing about this, though, out in front of the Senate building in Mexico City, there is now a cannabis forest. People just keep on planting plants outside of the Senate building. It's like now like a place where people can go and like meditate. You can't touch the plants, can't take anything off. Just people are just planting them. It's crazy just to get this shit done. So, man, Mexico, let's go, people. Cannabis community, rise up. There's this cool thing they're making in Israel right now. It's a microdosing cannabis inhaler that it received approval, and it's going to be going to Canada.
Whoa, like a asthma inhaler?
Yeah.
So it goes right into your
Yeah,
lung.
it's got these little pods that you put in there, and it's pretty friggin' cool.
So it wouldn't be smoke.
No.
You would just be getting the THC right to your lungs.
Yes. It's different. There's no it's like just like an inhaler like you use for
yeah.
And I've seen them before, but they're not very big out there. But this is like supposed to be like state of the art. It looks like a little mini computer thingy. It's pretty dope. So Canada, you're getting it first, it looks like. So I'd like to see it come here, or somebody create something like this in the United States, because it's pretty badass.
I like that idea.
Yeah,
because then I wouldn't have to smoke. Like, I love to smoke, but I know it's
there
not
is
good for
inhalers
me.
out there, but I've read a lot of articles on them, and I've done some research on them for you. But they get mixed emotions. You know, some people say they're really good. Some people say they can't control the dose. Some people say they're too strong. This one is supposed to be a microdose one, though.
Cool.
And you get an exact hit.
Are they saying that it's safe?
Because when you take your inhaler, it's like a little tube that goes inside that thing, and you click it, and it goes. It's an individual packet that's direct, like 5%. Or you could probably buy more. But there's individual packets,
like metered.
And it's like a circle, and there's all these little packets that you click in the
then
packet.
you inhale it.
Yeah, so you're getting like, you can't slip up and hit the thing twice, or
Right.
you know, like a normal inhaler used for asthma or something like that. So I think this is pretty cool. So we'll see what happens. Maybe one day it'll come to the United States. So if you ever go to the Philippines, be very, very careful about any kind of drugs there, cannabis especially. They will chop your hands off out there.
They can kill you for a while. Their president.
The president is telling people it's still. I think it's still like that. So, but they just busted some people for like $4.6 million worth of cannabis in a sting operation. But I mean, you guys just got to be careful when you go to the Philippines. They don't fuck around with any drugs.
Duarte's, I think, was their president for a while, and he might still be.
I think he still is.
And he declared basically like citizen's arrest. Like, if you know someone is a drug dealer, you could just go shoot him and murder him.
Yeah.
And there's and that's it. So everybody was just like waking up to dead bodies on the streets.
Oh yeah.
Crazy. That's not happening anymore though, right?
I think it still is. But
sometimes
people get sore throats from smoking cannabis. They might like burn their throat because it's too hot, a joint, and it happens with cigarettes. It happens with but this is a big thing. So if you get sore throat after smoking cannabis through a bong, make sure you put some ice cubes in the bong, or if you're smoking it through a pipe or anything like that, or a joint. What to do if you get a sore throat after smoking? So solutions to help are stay hydrated. I drink so much friggin' water when I smoke. I mean, I drink water all day long. I probably drink close to almost a gallon a day. But I especially, like I said, if your throat gets a little burny, stay hydrated. Avoid spicy foods. Smoking cannabis induces a healthy appetite in seasoned smokers. They either crave more cannabis or they crave food. Spicy meals may give you the sore throat. So avoid like chili peppers and hot sauces, and nutmeg should be avoided. Gargle with some warm salt water. I always thought that was great. It's reduce the amount of cannabis you used, and it's gonna be kind of tough for people. So I'm just reading what it says here. Yeah,
that's a bummer.
Some good solutions though: lick honey or lemon.
Lick it.
Yeah, like lick.
How about like
you
a
gotta
sprinkle?
lick it before you flick it. Honey or lemon. Drink soothing herbs, tea with fruits. Avoid caffeine or energy drinks. Switch your usual smoking location to a more airy place. Purchase a vape, humidifier to remove stale, dry air in your homes. Try another method of using cannabis, like consuming edibles. So, bottom line, just make sure you stay hydrated. If your throat is burned like that, it does sometimes happen. You hotbox it, you hold it for too long. You might be. Some people get all the way down to the ash and just keep on trying to smoke it. Don't realize that they're out. So just be careful. Just when you're smoking. So, whose birthday just passed?
Mr. Willie Nelson.
OG right there.
And I know we just talked about him recently, but we
it's
got to
just-
pay tribute. The man's a legend, right?
Yeah.
He turned 88 last week, and to celebrate, he was the keynote speaker at his own cannabis conference. It was called the Luck Summit, Planting the Seed. And of course, he began speaking at 4:20 promptly.
Go Willie.
The goal of the conference is to destigmatize cannabis culture, reports Austin 360. As a part of that effort, Nelson shared some stories about his history of cannabis use and how he has refined his smoking abilities. So much so, in fact, that Snoop Dogg has said that Nelson is the only person on the planet who can outsmoke him.
Go Willie.
During a trip to Amsterdam in 2008, Nelson reportedly smoked so much pot that Snoop was forced to bow out. But not
Wow, wow, yippee,
yeah.
yo, yippee, yay.
But not before the duo ended the night gorging themselves on fried chicken. Pretty cool.
It. Happy birthday, Willie.
Happy birthday, Willie.
Willie. That's awesome.
That's cool.
Out smoking the Snoop.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never tried cocaine in my life. Seen it hundreds of times, movies, whatever, drug bust, you see it on TV, whatever, you've seen it. I've never wanted to try it, but I am going to say this, though. There is now something called cannabis.
Shit.
And this company produced the Haymaker. It's 600 milligrams of THC, and it's a unique cannabis concentrate that's been making waves over the week, and not in a good way. Cannabumps, a snortable powdered cannabis concentrate packaged to look like cocaine, caught the eye of a few industry leaders. They tweeted their reactions pretty much as a chorus of "so gross," as you just did, Mrs. Weedman. And by the weekend, it was tweeted. The tweets started piling up, like, "What the fuck? What are you guys doing? This is crazy. You're bringing cannabis is just being legal, and now you're showing
you're gonna
it
make it bad."
As a cocaine." Reddit, Twitter. I mean, it was just all over the fucking place. So the company saying cannabis is made by THC Living, a licensed California edible manufacturer whose product line was previously limited to THC-infused lemonade and pain relief products, topicals. With 600 milligram of THC per package, THC Living appeared to legally position cannabis as a concentrate. California allows up to 1,000 milligrams of THC per package for concentrates. Edibles are limited to 100 milligrams of THC per package. But then the company, in its marketing materials, clearly pitched the product to consumers as, "Have a great time with your cannabis with our novel cannabis concentrates. Cannabumps are exactly what they sound like. Cannabis concentrates intend to be devoured through the nose.
Ew.
Ingested straightforwardly or added to your number one food."
Yeah.
And that seems straight up illegal.
That's just weird.
Did they pull the product? By the end of the weekend, the industry's backlash.
Why didn't they just put it in something you could like sprinkle on your food?
Well, that's what they should have done.
Yeah.
Like cannabis sprinkle.
Yeah.
Would have been
Put
kind
it in
of
your
cool.
coffee.
Right.
Put it in a milkshake.
The only thing that I
Right.
put on my nose is my finger.
Yeah.
So I ain't.
How about it?
Yeah. So I mean.
Neti pot.
Neti pot. Yeah. But that led to some speculation on Reddit that the whole thing was a big joke. It's fake. It doesn't exist. Unfortunately, it appears the product does exist. Late Monday afternoon, a law firm representing the company released a statement to Leafly that included this explanation. A few months ago, our client was approached by a third party that sought to utilize the client's proprietary formulations, the creation of Cannabumps product. As soon as our client learned what the product was for, it took the temperature of the customers and those in the industry to gauge how they felt about Cannabumps. Because of its own concerns, they exposed by consumers and the misgivings of those in the industry, our client made the decision to terminate any licensing granted to any third party that would use its proprietary information to market a product like Cannabis. So sounds like the THC Living pulled the product on their own.
No way.
Yep. So the company's not endorsing it.
Not at all.
You know, I think as a joke, I thought it was funny at first until I really realized that it was legal. People were doing it, not legal, but they actually created something like this.
Right.
You know what? We're trying to break the stigma and putting a product like that out there with that name. I'm not saying the product itself, like Mrs. Weedman said, could have used it as a sprinkle for your food, a THC additive to like making edibles with or something like that. That's fine. But the way you marketed that as Cannabumps and cocaine has such a bad reputation in this country. And, you know, to do that to something that we're trying to use medicinally and trying to show as it being responsibly used, by doing something like that, you hurt the industry as a whole and what everyone's been fighting for. So when you think of something like that, just think about it and then put it in the back burner, because think about the repercussions that just happened. So I don't know, Cannabumps, no bueno. So today's Cinco de Mayo.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, so hopefully everyone had a margarita and a taco or a big fat joint, like we're doing. So, but salute. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Salute, Mrs. Weedman.
Cheers.
That Jack
Should have
Herrera.
had a margarita.
Yeah, I know. That Jack Herrera was phenomenal, racy, but I wasn't like crazy. Like, could you tolerate me on this?
Yeah, you're all right.
All right, Spider?
You're okay. Right. You're all right. I'm all right.
You're all right, Spider?
Mm-hmm.
So, as we do this show, we do smoke on it. And we smoke different strains. Lately, we've been smoking a lot of the homegrown, but a lot of it has gotten stronger, or we smoke more throughout the show. So, as you realize this, someone asked me how we do it. And as you listen to us, you could tell the different strains we smoke. Sometimes I get a little like, sometimes Mrs. Weedman gets a little soft and tender-hearted. Sometimes I get a little racy. Sometimes she gets a little mad at me, which is all fine and dandy. You know, it's just you learn by the strains you smoke, and you can see what we're smoking, what it does to you. And that's why we smoke on this show. Also to the enjoyment of it. Also because I have a bad back, and that's what it is. So for pain relief. But we also like to experiment with it to see how we function during the show, and you can listen to us whether we're down by a strain. Sometimes Mrs. Weedman said, by the end of that show, man, you were like slow. I'm like, that was the strain I smoked, I guess. You know, this one here had me energetic, lively, fun. You know, I'm just up and ready to go. Couple hits here and there, 2 treat, you're ready to go out the door. Wish we could go to a bar and party all night. What? So, but I want to read one last thing to you. I found this and I thought it was kind of funny. Why do we search the universe for new life when we can't even coexist with the life on our own planet? Right?
Right.
I love you all out there. It was just something that I read and I was like, holy shit, that's like true. So, one love, everybody. One unity, humanity, earthlings. We're all earthlings. The fish in the sea. You walking across to your house, to your neighbor's house to say hello and smoke a big fat doink with them. From the ant crawling, we're all earthlings. This is just one earth. We got one. That's it. We ain't got another shot. So we all got to love each other, be kind to one another, try to take care of one another, and just be good. Just be a good person the best you can. You know, good things will come your way. I love you all. Mrs. Weedman, you got anything else to say?
Nanu.
Our age
I
group
know.
of people.
I know.
Probably don't
Our
know.
age group know what
Our
not.
age group,
and
yeah.
if you don't know what it is, then you need to Google that shit. Nanu.
We have to say at least. We won't tell you who it's from, but I will tell you the actor who was on it.
Yes.
To give people an idea. And he's passed away, God rest his soul. Robin Williams was the main actor of that show in the late 70s.
You're giving more clues.
That's it. So
no,
it's a couple clues.
that's it. Nanu.
2 tree.
Nanu.
I didn't give too many more. I can even tell you when
Don't.
Robin Williams aired before the main show even started. I could tell you when the first time he was on it.
What?
Yeah, you don't know.
Oh,
I
as a
know.
guest.
As a guest,
He
yes.
came to visit me.
Don't say nothing.
I'm not going to say it. Yep. I think I saw that.
Hey. Came to visit him. And I'm not going to say his name either.
Oh. Shoot.
Yeah.
All right, kids.
Yeah.
All right, youngins.
Whoever
Homework.
can DM us or email us where that show came from, I will send you some stickers right away. DM us, email us at WeedMan420 Chronicles on Instagram, WeedMan420 Pod on Twitter, WeedMan420 Chronicles at gmail.com. So if you email me, DM us, we will get you something if you be the first one. Maybe the second, maybe the third, maybe the fourth or the fifth. If I get 5, we'll do it. That was the Jack Herrera talking right there.
Blah, blah, blah.
Anything else, Mrs. Weedman?
No.
No?
Nope.
Nanu is how you ending the show.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Well, we love you all. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate y'all out there. I have to say, Columbus, Ohio, man, April was your month. Thank you for being the #1 city of downloads, man. We love you all out there. We appreciate you all around the world. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for listening. As Paulie always says, smoke smart, puff puffing away.
Puff, puff, pass.